we'll take a moment before we start the meeting today. Gracias a todos por estar con nosotros esta junta. Vamos a tomar un momento antes de comenzar la junta. Vamos a darle un segundo a todos para que se conecten. We'll give folks a minute to connect. So I'm going to pull up our presentation. So today's May 21st. So antes de comenzar, hoy vamos a compartir las instrucciones para acceder a los servicios de interpretación. Hoy voy a hacer estos primero en español y luego en inglés. Good evening, everybody. I'm going to share instructions for the interpretation services, first in Spanish, then in English. Para las personas que nos acompañan hoy a través de su tableta o iPad o de su teléfono inteligente o smartphone, a favor de localizar el menú en forma de 3 puntos en la parte inferior de su pantalla. De ahí pueden seleccionar Language Interpretation o interpretación del lenguaje. Y enseguida pueden seleccionar su idioma, en este caso el español o Spanish. Para todas las personas que nos acompañan a través de su computadora, pueden localizar el símbolo de interpretación en forma de globo en la parte inferior de su pantalla. Hagan clic ahí y después elijan su lenguaje en español o Spanish. Ahora voy a dar las instrucciones en inglés. Here are the instructions in English. For those of us that are joining through their tablets or iPads or through their smartphones, please locate the menu in the form of 3 dots on your screen. You can click there and then select language interpretation and then select language of your choice. In this case, it would be English. If you're joining through a computer, you can locate the icon in the form of a globe for interpretation at the bottom of your screen. You can click there and then from there select English as your language of choice. So we'll give folks a second to connect. So for today's meeting, here's our agenda. We'll do a little bit of a welcome. We're going to get an update from the Office of Environmental Justice on some community outreach updates. We're also going to hear a presentation on incentive funding updates. And then we have folks from CARB who are going to give a brief presentation on the Border Region Emissions Reduction Pilot Project. And then with that, we'll move to the end of the meeting itself. We'll do a little bit of closing remarks and then some next steps for folks. So some general updates. We'll start off with a tool that we wanted to kind of highlight. This is the Tijuana River Valley Sewage Crisis Environmental Dashboard. We do have Curtis that's going to be providing a little bit of an update on this. And then the information for the dashboard itself is something that we're going to send along to folks as well as part of the post-meeting materials. Curtis, if you want to jump in and give that update. And Curtis, you are muted.
Hi, everyone. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Perfect. Yeah. Hi, good evening, everyone. My name is Curtis Malika. I am the new supervisor of the AB617 Community Error Protection Program, AB617, and also in charge of the monitoring network for the Tijuana River Valley. I'm here today to provide a very brief verbal update on the hydrogen sulfide or H2S monitoring in the Tijuana River Valley. Hydrogen sulfide is a toxic air contaminant and can be detected by our noses. The characteristic smell of this contaminant is of rotten eggs. We currently have 3 sites around the Tijuana River Valley measuring for this contaminant on a 24-hour, 7-day basis, or 24/7. These sites that we're monitoring at are Berry Elementary School, the Imperial Beach Civic Center Fire Station, and the San Ysidro Fire Station number 29. We've been monitoring at these sites since last year. We started this phase of the project in September of last year with Teledyne T101 or T101 monitors. Since then, we have seen levels of H2S, or hydrogen sulfide, as I was mentioning, peak and then fall mostly overnight. At levels above 30 parts per billion, or ppb, occurring for 1 hour or more, they've been identified as a potential odor concern according to guidance from the California Office of Environmental Health Hazard Assessment, or shortened to OEHA. And we call this an episode. We at APCD send out updates and or odor advisories when this level is exceeded at any of our monitoring sites that I just mentioned. Since monitoring, and as of May 15th, last Friday morning, we have recorded 157 episodes. The most common duration of each episode is 1 hour. So for each episode that occurs, it's 1 hour. We see some that occur that more often than 1 hour, but by and large, over 50% of these episodes are falling into this category of 1 hour. We will continue to inform the public and community steering committee of our hydrogen sulfide monitoring readings. And we also have a website with a dashboard that can be shared after this as well. Thank you very much.
And Curtis, I'm going to pull up that dashboard just for folks to be able to see on screen. So if you click that link that Brisa just added into the chat, this is where you're going to land a lot of the information that Curtis is sharing. You'll see on here as well. But one question, Curtis, that we did have on here is like, what should community members be looking at, or as they're clicking on to the dashboard, is there something that, that should draw their eye to, or, beyond that, how should they utilize this dashboard?
Yeah, David, did you have something you wanted to say about this as well?
And David, you should be able to unmute yourself. Sorry.
Yeah, thanks, Christian and Curtis. Just two things. One, this is a County of San Diego dashboard in which it is pulling together various agencies data regarding the H2S program, or really the Tijuana River Valley program. And so this includes our data, which is in those kind of green dots that look like a little blown air, but it also includes the County of San Diego's beach water quality. And so we'll put a link in there that kind of has our direct to our dashboard that has the H2S on it, that kind of does some graphical representation on it. It also has our guidance document that we worked with the County of Public Health, as well as California Public Health, EPA, and the CDC, that kind of explains a little bit more on what the readings are. This one has a color coded for the 3 sites that are currently in green. That means that they're less than 5 parts per billion currently in the last hour, and they'll change colors depending upon what the level is at that site. The guidance document on our website kind of explains kind of where those levels, when they change and what they mean. It also includes actions that the various agencies like APCD is doing when we would then collaborate with public health. And it also has some guidance for what the community should expect when the levels are at 5 or 10 or 100, and different, what they can expect in terms of the smell, how that would affect their health, and also actions that they could take to help mitigate the response from being in that environment.
And then Shalom, I think you see your hand up as well.
Yeah, thank you, Curtis, and thank you, David. The only thing I wanted to add in terms of just kind of general context, one of the reasons why, and I'm going to find a link here and post it in the chat box, but it was a news article that the Kearns and West sent out last week. One of the reasons why we're most likely seen those elevated levels of hydrogen sulfide and people are experiencing the strong odors is that there is currently some infrastructure that's being fixed in Tijuana. And because of that, there's higher flows in the river coming into the United States. And so you're seeing higher levels of hydrogen sulfide and experiencing higher levels of odor. And it's likely because of the construction and infrastructure enhancements that are happening in Tijuana right now. I'm going to find the article that we sent out last week to post it in the chat, but just wanted to provide a little bit of context as to why people might, in the last couple of weeks, have been experiencing higher hydrogen sulfide levels.
And then Curtis, I do see a question. I know these are general updates, but the question that I was seeing is if there are any trends in the timeframes when the episodes are occurring.
Yes, we generally see almost exclusively these events occurring during the nighttime hours. So they start as early as around 6 p.m. or so, but generally overnight is when we see the highest levels of hydrogen sulfide readings.
Thank you, Curtis. And then I did see that some folks are having trouble with the links in chat, so we'll double check that. And then if we're able to address that, I think some folks are able to log on, and then some other folks are not. So we'll double check everything. But if you do have questions with that, reach out to our team, and then we'll make sure that you have access. So I'm going to keep moving. I think we did have some other updates, but we did want to open up some space for other CSC members to share any updates, any things that are happening in the community, events, or updates that would be helpful for this group. And I know that Zach would like to give an update on behalf of SANDAG. Zach, if you're on.
Yeah, sorry, are you able to hear me?
Yes.
Okay, I'm in a dark garage with not great Wi-Fi, so sorry if I cut out. But yeah, I think I just wanted to provide a really quick verbal heads up more than anything for the following CSC meeting, I think June 18th. Basically, the SANDAG regional plan, which for those who have been around long enough to remember the CERP development, the regional plan that SANDAG puts together, kind of like that long-range blueprint for how the region's should grow its infrastructure in the next 20, 30 years. And that includes transportation infrastructure as a big focus. But I guess the heads up I'm providing today is we're set to release our latest draft regional plan, the 2025 regional plan, this Friday. And along with that, there's going to be opportunities for the public, the CSC, to provide comment. There's going to be a 55-day comment period on the draft plan. And then separately, I guess for APCD's awareness, the EIR associated with the regional plan, that's set for release, I think, in the early part of August or the late part of July, based on the latest info I have. So just a heads up on that. But for CSC members, just keep that in your on your radar, just for your awareness. The regional plan should be out soon. But I think the main story is that our current or currently adopted regional plan, the 2021 regional plan, was a big component of what fed into the CERP. And so a lot of the passenger vehicle and heavy duty vehicle strategies that are in the CERP are informed by the 2021 regional plan. In general sense, the 2025 regional plan carries forward a lot of that 2021 regional plan project list. So more info to come at the next meeting. I'll provide kind of a more formal presentation, but want to let everybody know that the draft regional plan, the next one, 2025 regional plan, is coming out this Friday.
Thank you, Zach. And if there are links for the webpage where that is going to be located, feel free to add it to the chat. And then I think, yeah, we look forward to that presentation at the next CSC meeting.
Will do.
Thank you.
Sure.
Again, just if there are any other updates, feel free to also drop them in the chat, and then we can kind of revisit those at the end of the meeting. So for this next section, we were going to get an update on from the Office of Environmental Justice on the community outreach updates and what's been happening. I know that Lauren is out in the field and doing actually some flyering for some community event. So we do have Shalom that's going to be jumping in and then providing that update for us. So Shalom.
Yes, thank you so much, Christian. We just wanted to provide an update of the different opportunities we had this past month or the past couple months to connect with community members in the San Isidro area. On March 18th, we were at the STEM fair at a local elementary school, got to connect with a lot of families, sharing information about air quality, who they can call if there's an air quality concern as well. We were also and got to see many of you at the Abrazo event on May 3rd. And then we've been out in the field flyering at a lot of different places. So at Sunset Elementary, Head Start, different apartment complexes throughout San Isidro, letting folks know about the free air purifier program. And I'll also drop a link in here in just a few minutes, but letting folks know that the district, as you all know, currently has, for folks within qualifying areas, has free air purifiers to support with some odor relief and improving indoor air quality. So we've been letting folks know, and we've been out there, sharing with folks the information and all. I know Lauren's been reaching out to many of you to see if you're interested and able to help support in some of this engagement. As we move forward, we'll keep you posted and let you know of other opportunities moving forward. The last thing I want to share in terms of outreach efforts that we've been doing, and Kevin, who's the next presenter, will be speaking a bit more about this, is that we reached out to all the principals at all the schools in San Isidro, and then also the superintendent, to let them know about a funding program that they are eligible for in order to get high quality air filters for inside classrooms. As a result of that outreach, I think we had a good handful of schools apply for that funding. And as I mentioned, Kevin can share more about the details about that and what are potential next steps moving forward. So we've had a busy time connecting with community members. Well, as I mentioned, we'll keep you all posted as more opportunities to engage one-on-one with community members emerges, to let you know and see if you are interested and able to attend with us and share important information with the community. Lauren is actually out in Imperial Beach right now at a community event, letting folks know about the air purifier program. So she wasn't able to be here today, but we do have her email address here. And if there's any other events that you know of that are coming up that we should be at, sharing information and hearing directly from community members, please do let us know. Lauren's email address is there. She's the one who coordinates all of that. So feel free to reach out to her to let her know of any upcoming potential events. So thank you all, and I'm looking forward to seeing you out in the community soon.
Thank you, Shalom. So I'm gonna move forward. And I think for this next presentation, we're getting a little bit of an overview on incentive funding and some general updates on that. I'm looking on my participant box. I'm not seeing Kevin. Not sure if someone from Kevin's team's here on his behalf to speak to this presentation.
Yeah, I am not seeing Kevin or anyone on his team right now. Maybe if we can move, I think I see Ryan here to the CARB presentation, and I'll try reaching out to Kevin.
Yeah, and I think we're connecting with Kevin. So I'm gonna scan through these. Cool. And I'm going to pull this back up. And Ryan, sorry for never putting you up front. Ryan, are you here?
Hey, Christian, can you hear me?
Yes. So Ryan, I'm going to hand it off to you. And then we'll make sure to take some time, I think, for questions. I think you have some really good questions, I think, for the CSE members that we'll want to get through. But yeah, handing it over to you.
Sure. Hello, actually, before I start, if you could also share the presentation on your end, Christian, and I can start us off here. My name is Ryan Michael Atencio. I'm with the California Air Resources Board, the Office of Environmental Justice. Thanks for inviting me to the meeting for the IBC Steering Committee, Community Steering Committee. So we're here just really to give a short presentation on an upcoming project that we're implementing in the border region. This project is border wide, but obviously has some significance to all communities in the border region, including the international border community there. And so we're also seeking some specific input or feedback, which you'll see. It's a short presentation. So next slide, please. So might be a little hard to see this, but this project focuses on air quality improvement and emissions reductions in the border region and is being led by CARB with funding from the US EPA. The project has a total budget of $155,500 with a timeline that runs through September the 30th, 2026. And so I've taken the liberty here of pointing out a few places in your SERP that there's some potential alignment with this project, this emission reductions pilot project. The activities that are outlined in our project, like I said, are directly aligned with, namely, one, the community care strategy, and number two, the cross-border strategies. And those are indicated here, if you can see it, with the red arrows. Next slide. So what's this kind of all about? So in 2024, CARB's Office of Environmental Justice, which I'm a part of, the Border Relations Coordinator for Border Affairs Coordinator, excuse me, for CARB, we were awarded a US EPA Clean Air Act Section 105 grant for $150,000. The grant is air quality improvement focused in the border region. 150,000 obviously is for an emission reduction project of this scope and scale is not a lot. So due to the grant funding amount, we're focusing on proof of concept and pilot projects to maximize the lessons and to demonstrate successful strategies. CARB is seeking principal investigators, which is PI. That's the acronym PI in English. PIs and contractors with experience working in the border region. The primary goal of the project is to support air quality improvement efforts in the border region, all along the border. This isn't just focused, by the way, in San Isidro, Tijuana, or Mexicali and in Imperial Valley. This is all along the border in both basins. So we're seeking to implement projects and specifically aim to address gaps in air quality management in the border region that have been previously identified by US EPA and NAD Bank. This includes deploying strategies and technologies to reduce pollutant emissions and improve public health outcomes, providing or supporting to provide reliability and sustainability for operated air monitoring networks. So networks that are already in operation, we can provide some technical support for those. This can be addressed through tasks like purchasing and donating necessary equipment for existing monitoring projects, assisting with logistics for equipment importation, providing training for air monitoring station technicians, supplying sample media and supplies. And thirdly, increasing knowledge transfer binationally. This can be facilitated by hosting, culturally competent binational meetings and stakeholder convenings to develop project components and enhance cooperation around air quality between US, Californian, and Mexican partners. Next slide. So I really want to kind of manage expectations here. Again, the grant amount of the project for emission reduction projects is not a lot of money, 150,000. So again, we're looking for to do pilot projects or proof of concept or demonstration projects around emission reductions. We would focus on developing strategies and implementing these kinds of projects to reduce pollutant emissions. So examples, tangible examples, and it's not only these, but these are some tangible examples that we would consider and that we're looking for. Could be paving projects to mitigate or eliminate fugitive dust from well-traveled or unpaved roads, parking lots, or other unpaved areas near sensitive receptors. Burning mitigation projects, use tire collection and diversion to prevent burning, incentives to farmers for not burning agricultural waste, identification and cleanup of clandestine trash burning sites, developing inventories of clandestine burning sites, potentially using aerial drones, potentially replacing fuel or fuel replacement from wood to propane or charcoal to propane. We would also look to support air monitoring networks, like I mentioned earlier in the previous slide. This could be purchasing and donating equipment, things like cables, hotspots, analyzers, meteorological calibration equipment, low-cost PM sensors. I mean, all of these things out in the field are affected, obviously, by the ambient conditions that they're found in. You'd be surprised. I think the monitoring folks on the call, how many times cables go out or an air conditioner goes out in your monitoring station, and it kind of affects data collection. I mean, there's these real world problems that happen that sometimes are hard to address, and we're hoping to be a backstop and all along the border region and try to help solve those problems to the extent that we can. Additionally, I mentioned community engagement. So binational community engagement, this would aim to increase knowledge transfer binationally. So the funding can cover things like hosting culturally competent meetings, in person or virtual, with binational stakeholders and or convenings for binational stakeholders, and including facilitation. Next slide. So obviously very ambitious for the amount, but again, that's why we're focusing on pilot projects and ideas and things that are like proof of concept. So in terms of the timeline, this year, we would like to identify a principal investigator or contractor that we can work with and to develop that scope of work and enter into a contractual agreement. We'd like to identify or begin to identify potential projects and hold at least one community meeting in 2025. And then in 2026, we would hope to implement any of the micro pilot projects that we've identified or were able to identify, host another community meeting to kind of report back at least one, and then of course, put together a final report. Last slide, please, or second to last slide. So I'm here today, number one, to share this information and our plans with you in terms of this table and the community steering committee that you're on, but also specifically to ask for any potential thoughts or ideas or considerations or feedback you might have. We wanted to share this information for that, but and also because we're seeking that information. Namely, number one, you know, we're familiar with the CERP. We've read the CERP. My group, you know, we're not in the part of CARB that works directly with the district on AB 617. We work tangentially with the district, but we're obviously very aware of the CERP and the strategies. But we just wanted to make sure the alignment, you know, is this are these example projects in alignment with the most critical community air quality needs, and how would they meet your community's air quality needs? Number two, are there specific or suggested people that we can work with, or groups or principal investigators or contractors that you know of that we should engage? Because the border region, as you know, is pretty unique in California, and working in a region that's binational by nature. The air basins are binational by definition, and we need to work with folks who understand that dynamic and are able to work in both areas, both sides of the border. And so this is unique. So this is what we're looking for. Additionally, the other piece that I want to mention here was our border webpage. This is where we would plan to update or provide public or make public any progress on this project. So we would be looking to update this webpage with information and reporting back from the project. But specifically for this community steering committee, we wanted to know how best can we keep everybody informed beyond, you know, the webpage, right? So that's another question for your consideration.
So with that, Ryan, I think we can go back to that initial question, and we'll see if folks have some raised hands. And I think yeah, again, rereading that question, what are the reactions to the example that Ryan shared, and then two, does these meet the air quality needs for the region? And folks, feel free to raise your hand and then jump in, and if not, also drop in your thoughts in the chat as well.
And yeah, thanks, Christian. Just to kind of bookend that request, I just wanted to add in, and I see Jazz added in my contact info. If at any time you have any thoughts or ideas, or you wanted to get in contact with CARB, you can contact me at my email there. And also my supervisor's email is there, Ashley Giorgio, who's really, really supportive of this work. And you don't just have to have the next couple of minutes to think about this. You can reach me at any time. This is going to be an ongoing kind of project for us. You saw the timeline. This is going to be going on through September of next year. So happy to have any discussion at any time, and happy to hear any comments you have now.
And Ryan, I do see two questions for you. So the first one, are there eligibility requirements for businesses to qualify for new equipment donation / funding?
I don't know if I understand the question. I think let me just explain, and then maybe I can try to understand if I understand it correctly. So as it relates to air quality monitoring, or an air quality monitoring station in either one of the basins, or air quality censoring in either one of the basins, San Diego or Salton, there are no eligibility requirements as of yet. But I mean, that's certainly something, if there's any considerations, we can consider that. The idea behind the support, the technical support, is for instance, monitoring stations that are already part of a network, like a known network. So those could be the ones in San Diego, for instance, the ones that that Curtis and David at the San Diego are running, or our counterparts in Baja California, or anywhere else. It's meant to support technically, to the extent we can, those types of stations.
Thank you, Ryan. And then the other question, I think this is more so for the third question about community engagement. So I think the note was whether one meeting would be enough to gather information from the community. And I think part of that, I think maybe is also including the thought that this is covering a pretty broad region, both San Diego and then all the way down to the Solon region as well. But I guess that maybe it's more of a comment and less of a question, but yeah, I think maybe the question is there flexibility with the number of meetings that could occur for this?
Yeah, absolutely, Christian, and that's a good question, good point. One meeting is not enough. So the way we phrase it is at least one community meeting. I think there's some constraints in terms of the funding, and the way that the proposal was awarded from US EPA, the amount. But yeah, it doesn't need to be one meeting. And by the way, a meeting can be, it can look however we want it to look like. It can be virtual, it can be in real life, it can be like just a talk. It can be informal, it can be very, very formal, right? Depending upon the purposes of that, and the magnitude of what we're trying to do, we can adjust. I will say again, within the scope of what we're trying to do, to try to execute demonstrable pilot projects to reduce harmful emissions. I don't necessarily see the need for like very formalized types of meetings where we have a lot of formality. Sometimes it's better to get to work. So yeah, it doesn't need to be one meeting. There can be multiple.
Thank you, Ryan. And then I see Shalom's hand up.
Yeah, thank you so much, Ryan, for sharing this. I'm really excited to see this project move forward. I'm wondering, Christian, if you'd be able to go to the slide. I think there were some pictures. Yeah, this one right here. You talked about here like projects that would incentivize not to burn. Could you provide maybe some examples of what those incentives could be as part of this pilot program?
Yeah, they could look like payments or gift cards or other types of programs that have already been developed and are mature. Like different districts have ag burning incentives. We can look to those as an example. Again, depending upon where exactly we're targeting for one of these projects, an agricultural region, depending on where it's at, depending on what our contractor is able to help us to do, it could look like any one of these strategies. But when you're talking about incentives not to burn, there needs to be, you need to think about monetary considerations. And if you look at like mature programs, like in other districts that have a strong agricultural base, a lot of these incentives are monetary based. So there's things like credits and things like this. I don't know if we're in the position to do that. It might be more discreet to do monetary.
So would the thought be, just as a follow-up, would the thought be that they would then take that funding and do waste management in a different way that maybe would be too costly otherwise? Or is that the kind of the thought behind that?
That is the thought behind that. That is the thought behind that. And taking that even further, for my partners at CARB that do things like air quality planning in science, air quality modeling. You know, what's also on the wish list would be like to quantify that, right? So what amount in terms of tonnage are you diverting, and how are we able to quantify the emission reductions, managing that in a way besides burning? Like, would we be able to report back on that? Because that is kind of like the holy grail, right? To be able to report back like tangible, demonstrable reduction methods, and then be able to see, you know, are these strategies worthwhile to pursue in a larger sense?
And sorry to get into the weeds of this. I'm just trying to wrap my head around it. Would there, like, if they get the funding, be like an actual requirement, right, that burning didn't happen? And like, how would you all, I guess in other programs, how did they go about checking that that actually didn't occur because they received that funding? I'm just wondering about kind of the accountability structure there.
So, I mean, there would be some oversight. Obviously, we'd have to build that into kind of the scope of work and how we want to do that. But I think different districts do it different ways. I think a lot of it is with their enforcement programs. Again, a lot of these deal with credits in lieu, or there's other kinds of incentives. And I think this is something we can explore, but definitely there needs to be accountability.
Thank you, Sean and Ryan, on that. And one thing that did come through chat, just as a note, was to see whether any of the CSC members that there are community members that are living with the no tie have any thoughts on this. Just given tire burning or clandestine trash burning, and whether you think this type of project could help address some of those concerns with the no tie.
Christian, was that a question for me or
I think
for?
more so for the CC members, if see if
Okay.
there's any other thoughts or feedback from that community perspective. And if not, I'm going to move forward to this section. I do want to, again, bring up the questions. If there are any thoughts, I think, as Ryan said, if you have any other feedback for him and the rest of the team, I think the contact information is in the chat. Ryan, it seems like, you know, you're open to receiving feedback on these questions. Is there a timeline when you would best want that information to you, or?
Yeah, Christian. So we're looking to get a contract in place as soon as we can this summer. So any questions or comments, commentary, I would say probably through June would be most helpful. Because the other thing in all this to consider, and just in terms of administration on CARB's end, is the fiscal year starts July 1. And so that's kind of a milestone internally for us. So, you know, through June would be great, but even after June is fine.
Sounds good. And Wendy, I see you've gone off mute, so I'm not sure if you want to jump in and if you had any thoughts on this. Wendy? Maybe not. Okay. Ryan, I do want to plug in one more thing. I think just following up on the last question, I think just hoping to hear from other folks as well. I think we talked about potentially there being more than one meeting. I think that's a possibility. So just following up on how the best way to keep everyone informed, and want to see whether folks have any thoughts on that, any ideas on how to keep the broader community as well informed of what's happening and this pilot program that Ryan and the team are putting together. But if folks have any thoughts on that, ideas, please raise your hand. Yeah.
Buenas tardes. Pues yo creo que la manera más fácil de informar a la comunidad es como teniendo una página web donde se puede informar a la gente de lo que está pasando. También tengo otra pregunta. Me parecen muy buenas las ideas que están, pues para empezar, me parecen muy buenas esas ideas. Y la segunda pregunta, ¿a qué se refiere? A esta pregunta de que hay investigadores contratistas específicos sugeridos que recomienden a CARB para trabajar en la región fronteriza. ¿A qué se refiere? Quiere como, por ejemplo, si nosotros, la comunidad, conocemos a personas que podamos recomendar o cómo, no entendí muy bien esa pregunta.
Bueno, exactamente, Wendy. Gracias para la pregunta. Sí, lo que queremos saber si hay unos personas, investigadores por ahí en una universidad o otro nivel que podemos trabajar con ellos, pues si a puro casualidad si saben eso o no, pues está bien, pero por ejemplo, para nosotros es más fácil, más eficaz para trabajar conjunto con un contratista para implementar este tipo de proyecto, pues.
Thank you, Ryan. And then I am seeing another question, just if there are any requirements or qualifications for those principal investigators or contractors that would determine eligibility for them to like pursue this work or any other limitations.
Well, I think that there are some administrative requirements in terms of having like a to enter into a contract with the state of California. So I think there would need to be some information like a employer information type of number or these kinds of things, appropriate licenses depending on what type of work is going to be proposed that they do, these kinds of things. So I mean, to answer the question specifically, no, you need to be able to enter into a contract with the state of California.
Okay.
I guess would be probably the best.
Yeah,
and
baseline.
Yeah, for an example, I know that there are, when I say researchers, I say principal investigators. That's kind of a vague term, but a lot of times that means like professors that work at universities that do research, and they do research into different areas of work. A lot of times those types of folks are looking for projects like this that align with their research interests. So that's one thing, but it doesn't have to be academic based. That's just an example.
Sounds good. Thank you, Ryan. I'm not seeing any more.
Gracias.
Gracias,
Hey.
So I'm gonna, Ryan, I think we've already shared your contact information. I know this is going to go out as well as part of the reminder, but yeah, again, just plugging in that if folks do have comments or questions to those questions that Ryan posted, I think that'd be great if we can get feedback from folks on those. So Ryan's contact information and then Ashley's contact information are on screen now. So Ryan, thank you so much for joining us, and then hopefully we'll be hearing from you soon as well.
Thank you.
Thank you. So I'm doing a little bit of a pause here. I know we were waiting to see whether we had Kevin online. It seems like we were not able to get Kevin. So I think we are going to maybe put a pin on that on his presentation for the next CSC meeting. So with that, it's actually taken us to the end of the meeting itself. We are going to be wrapping up a little bit early. We don't want to hold you here just for time's sake. But with that, we do want to kind of provide some next steps and reminders for folks. So the first thing is one, I think, to just make sure you register for our June 18th meeting. That's coming up soon. The other thing is that we've now started this like weekly digest. So we're hoping to have, hopefully, funnel a lot of the information, announcements, meetings, workshops that are happening into a single weekly digest. So we're going to be sending these out to folks, compiling all of that information, and then sending that as a single email. You might still see the occasional one-off reminder or notice that comes out. Most of those are going to be due to the timeliness of that meeting. If a public comment or something's happening that is last minute, then we'll want to make sure that we send that kind of as those things are, as we're learning about those and making sure that you have the opportunity to provide comment as well. The other thing too is that if you are receiving stipends, we want to make sure that everything's going well with that. So if you do have questions or need any additional support with that, please reach out to our team. I believe you should have our contact information. So anything related to stipends, please reach out. With that, I think we're at the end of our meeting. Shalom, I don't know if you have any other closing remarks, but if not, we will address our meeting today.
No, I just wanted to say thank you to everyone for being here this evening, and thank you, Christian, Jazz, and Brisa, for your facilitation support and making sure that this ran smoothly. So hope to see you all in the community at a community event coming up soon. Take care.
All right, folks, with that, we wrap our meeting. Thank you so much. We'll see everyone on June 18th. Thank you all. Gracias a todos.